Sir, lastly, and I want to make it very clear on the record, and it's unrelated to this negotiated change of plea, I guess at some point after the fact, the state wants to take a proffer from you or have a discussion with you, ask you some questions about whatever that may be.
He decides to flip and become a cheese eater.
As a mother, how did that make you feel?
It's heartbreaking. It made me feel completely helpless.
YNW. Bortlen accepted his plea deal. Melly watched his live broadcast from his jail blog. It was said that YNW Bortlen accepted a plea bargain in exchange for his plea. He will be sentenced to 10 years in prison and 6 years on probation. He was given multiple life sentences. However, Bortlen revealed what he knew about the YNW Melly case as part of his deal. Even the court said, quote, "I don't know how your lawyers pulled this off."
It's my understanding that you want to resolve both cases today. Is that correct? Yes. And that resolution is an agreement you've reached with the state, the terms of which are as follows. Number one, in the 19 case, you're going to plead no contest to both counts of accessory after the fact. In the 23 case, you're going to plead no contest to all 4 counts as charged. In exchange for that, the state is going to null process, that is, drop the 2 first-degree. In exchange for that, I'm going to adjudicate you guilty on the 2 accessory counts as well as the tampering count. I'm going to sentence you to 10 years in Florida State Prison.
This is the greatest plea deal ever, ranging from 5 life sentences to 10 years in jail with time served. According to DJ Academics, YW Bortlen pled no contest on both charges, according to the judge. He next has to provide a factual explanation for his acceptance of the plea. That is to say, in order to prove that the crime truly happened, you must give a truthful narrative of how you were an accessory to it. YW Melly is also charged with this crime. This is a gun plea, but he can't say yes ma'am because of the proffer. He must sing like Franklin as he continues to explain that it's a plea deal similar to...
I said this is a gunner plea. This is a gunner plea. This isn't a plea saying you have to tell on him, but this is a plea that you're going to have to provide all the details that they were missing to convict him. And that's why it's a gunner plea. Why do I say he signed a gunner plea? Because YNW Melly, and I watched the case, we covered it. YNW Melly's case is that, number one, you guys have not done a job to prove that this is actually they have proved, but prove that this is a homicide with this person being the offender. Also, the accessory after the fact plea confirms that Bortlen, that's kind of like almost like a sub part of a conspiracy, except you weren't with the conspiracy at first. You came in after the fact. What that proved is that they came in. What that proved is that Bortlen worked with someone after he acknowledged that a took place in trying to cover it up. You hear what I just said? When pleading to an accessory to after the fact, you have to acknowledge that it happened and you assisted someone or in some way to cover the. Now, if Melly's statement is, how do we know, and then secondly, how do we know who did it? Because they said it was a drive-by.
Bradford Cohen, the attorney representing Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, said that YW Bortlen had eaten the cheese and was likely to turn on rapper YW Melly after accepting a plea deal in his criminal case.
All right, let's talk YNW Melly and YNW Bortlen. He is now doing the triple Lindy. For those youngsters that don't know what the triple Lindy is, it is when you do several flips off a high dive, and he will be flipping. He is going to be tell-all about anything he knows about the double case, and they will know if he's telling the truth or telling a lie when he gives his full quote-unquote confession as to what happened that evening. And that's what happens. A lot of times where guys are in the prison for 4 or 5 years awaiting trial and looking at a life sentence, and they're offered 10 years where they'll be home probably in another 3 years that he'll serve, he decides to flip and become a cheese eater. And that's what happens a lot of times on these cases. And I was expecting it to happen a lot sooner than it did. He held out for quite some time. But long story short is it looks like he's going to flip. And it makes the case on YNW Melly, depending on what he says, which I anticipate he'll say that YNW Melly is responsible.
6X99 would write as well. Recently, YW Bortlen consented to a plea deal with the prosecution. YW Melly is finished. I was told about these rap guys years before, but they chose me because they were worried about my notoriety. The judge even told YW Bortlen in court today that the prosecution wanted to interrogate him, probably to talk about the crime he committed with YW.
Lastly, and I want to make it very clear on the record, and it's unrelated to this negotiated change of plea, I guess at some point after the fact, the state wants to take a proffer from you or have a discussion with you, ask you some questions about whatever that may be. What I want you to understand, sir, is I guess that's part of this negotiated resolution, but your answers to any of those questions, whatever they might be, have no bearing on me and have no bearing on this negotiated resolution. In other words, the deal you've negotiated is the deal you've negotiated, and that's the ballgame. Do you understand all that, sir? Have you had enough time to talk to your lawyers about all that? They've answered all your questions? You're sure that that's what you want to do?
It is evident that the state only wants YNW Melly because YNW Bortlen was given such a large plea deal. Offset tweeted, "Damn, his best friend snitched on YNW Melly. Release the boy. He had been incarcerated for much too long, but there was nothing else Bortlen could do. This was something he had to cope with when he was in prison." Please comment below if you would have...
Mr. Henry, do you understand the offer that the state is making to you? Okay, you're charged as follows. Counts 1 and 2 is the first degree with a firearm. Those are capital felonies, which means it's a mandatory life sentence. If the jury convicts you of count 1 or count 2 as charged, that's life in Florida State Prison. I have no discretion. Count 3 and count 4 are accessory after the fact to the first degree. Those are each first degree felonies. The maximum penalty for each of those is 30 years in Florida State Prison. Count 1 is tampering with a witness in a capital felony. That is punishable by life in Florida State Prison. Is directing the activities of a criminal, that's a first degree felony punishable by life. So the maximum penalty there is also life in Florida State Prison. Count 5 is conspiracy to commit tampering. And again, as it's charged, that is also a life felony. As to all the charges that you're facing, the maximum possible penalties are as follows. Life in Florida State Prison, followed by 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 75 years in Florida State.
They are discussing a plea deal with YNW Bortlen for specific reasons. One is that on the evening of the crime, YNW Bortlen conducted an interrogation. The police would ask Bortlen directly, "If you know who did this crime, would you tell me?"
Like just telling me the truth, even if it's something that I don't want to hear, but I respect the truth rather than BS, okay? And it's a simple question. If you knew who did this, okay? You may or may not know. If you knew who did this, would you tell me? It's either a yes or no question. Answer.
Honestly?
Yeah, honestly. The truth. You wouldn't?
Because I wouldn't want to be a part of it. I wouldn't want to be.
Where, instead of using his words to give a clear yes or no answer, Bortlen shakes his head nay. This is due to the fact that Bortlen would surely know that Melly was the offender. Therefore, if he had used his voice to say no, causing it to crack or come out at a different volume, he would have been lying throughout the entire interview, under extreme strain. This was seen by the police. Bortlen didn't want anything to do with it. He couldn't even talk while being questioned. All he wanted was to get out of the case. And the feds already had evidence that Melly was the criminal. In fact, he admitted it.
PC Gambino account asked him if he was okay, and his response was, "I did that," and placed a smiley face emoji.
And the next message from 10/26/2018 at 16:02 from Eastern Standard Time. The YNW Melly count says what?
After that, SHHHH.
But YNW Melly always thought he was going to prevail. Even before Bortlen's guilty plea, YNW Melly asked for a $100,000 chain while he was in prison.
I would assume
But still,
that he spent a lot of money on lawyers. Like an amount that would probably...
That kid spent a lot of money on a lot of things that shouldn't have been spent on.
Really? Like what else?
And cars, jewelry. And he's not even out to wear the jewelry. I'm like, why are you buying jewelry and you're not here to wear the jewelry?
No, definitely lawyers are probably the best thing you can spend
That's
money
what
on.
bro. But he's good with lawyers, bro. Like, money ain't an issue for lawyers. Like, he's fine, but it's just like, there was a lot of stuff that should have went to lawyers that he didn't spend on lawyers. And I'm like, bro. And now it's like, he don't even want the chain no more.
But no one is even talking about how the feds set up YNW Bortlen to betray Melly. It started with the headline, "Melly's double retrial has been postponed once again." At a hearing on Friday, the 4th District Court of Appeals granted a delay in the case to allow the state attorney's office to review a motion. Because of the stay, the trial will now happen in January 2027 rather than September, because the state will provide a ton of paperwork indicating that they want to include new evidence in the upcoming trial. But all they wanted was additional time to negotiate a plea deal with YNW Bortlen. When the news stated that a no communication order was now in effect for the YNW Melly trial, this was confirmed. The order completely cuts off Melly and Bortlen. No speech, no legal discourse, no silence. In this way, Bortlen couldn't even get in touch with YNW Melly to let them know what the prosecutor
here, and you can try them together. It is to the benefit of the state to try them together. It's just more efficient. You don't have to do things again and again. Do it all at once, and also you get a better chance of having them incriminate each other during the trial. It benefits the defense to sever it. That way they can point the finger at each other and get away with it. So this is what's going on. But I don't think it should be automatically severed because the state is seeking penalty for Melly, because it's only the penalty phase of the trial that would be different, not the guilt phase. The guilt phase is the same. They're both capital crimes. You're seeking the penalty on one, not the other, but that goes into the second part of the trial, the penalty phase, only if Melly is found guilty.
With YNW Bortlen on their side, they only need to confirm the evidence against Melly, and at his subsequent retrial, Melly will be found guilty. But you didn't know either that Melly tried to turn on Bortlen during the first trial. Furthermore, since then, Melly and Bortlen have not communicated.
Those were his lies. Cortland Henry shows up at Memorial Hospital, Miramar. You don't see him sitting there, but where you will see him sitting is in the driver's seat of a car with 2 bodies, car riddled with bullets. And when he shows up with a change of clothing, change of shirt, powder residue on his hands, evidencing that he had discharged a firearm. And he lies. He lies about where the incident occurred. He lies about how it occurred. And he lies about not having a phone. I think it was Miss Bradley herself who said, everybody has a phone in his pocket, not Cortland Henry.
WW. Melly's own lawyer told the jury that Bortlen was the one who had misled the federal government. When they passed, Bortlen was the last one with a Juvian sack chaser, and his hands were covered in powder residue. They even summoned a forensic scientist to the stand to discuss the fatalities and provide additional details regarding Bortlen's possession.
So the right hand of Cortland Henry contained 0 particles characteristic of heart residue and 2 two-component particles. And the left hand contained 1 particle characteristic of heart residue and 1 two-component particle.
And can you explain to us what that means?
Basically, overall, there was heart residue present on the hands.
Bortlen has known for a few years that he will snitch on the case as a result. According to an account, we saw Bortlen tweet a mysterious message on the same day Melly's mistrial was declared. The tweet reads, "Mind games don't work on people like me," because the message has been clear for a few years, but no one is even talking about it. A handshake emoji is also included, implying that he is agreeing to a deal. However, considering what was found in his home, YNW Bortlen has every incentive to turn on Melly, which is even more frightening.
Co-defendant YNW Bortlen was booked into a Miami jail Monday night and is being held behind bars on an out-of-county warrant. We just confirmed the warrant is out of Broward County for witness tampering. The warrant obtained by Law and Crime Network states as follows. On or about April 10, 2023, continuing through and including July 22, 2023, Cortland Henry, aka Bortlen, along with others, did unlawfully and knowingly engage in misleading conduct toward another person with the intent to cause or induce them to withhold testimony. The warrant continues the alleged witness had been summoned by the legal process to the jury trial of Jamel Demons, aka YNW Melly. The dates in the warrant are important. Jury selection for Melly started in mid-April, and a judge declared a mistrial on July 22nd, the same day the warrant claims Bortlen allegedly tampered with the witness.
Here are the images of alleged notes discovered during the home raid of YW Bortlen's home last week, as filed with the Broward clerks, along with these photos of Bortlen detailing where certain jurors were sitting, alongside a description of what they looked like, the report stated after the information was made available to the public. As you can see, Melly's lawyers tried to blame YW Bortlen for the crime while he was present in the courtroom. Bortlen needed to show up in court before Melly arrived so he could get his own trial date. While doing this, he visualized the jurors' looks and even their seating configurations. He drew everything out on paper when he got home that day, giving the impression that he would convince every juror to vote for Melly if he were convicted.
Keep it real, this is sloppy. Bortlen, how the f you gonna have the notebook of the jurors in your house? Holy sh! Like, come the f on. It's like doing a and having the surveillance tape in your DVD player or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Like they raid your crib and the surveillance footage of the is in your DVD player. They be like, oh, okay, thank you, brother. This can't be at your crib.
However, that same day, Bortlen was placed under house arrest due to the statements made by Melly's lawyers. He just shoved the paperwork into his bag and stored it in his closet when he got home to watch the live trial. However, Bortlen will just validate all of the new evidence the prosecution wishes to use against him, which makes matters much more frightening for Melly. The prosecution is trying to incorporate 3 more pieces of evidence, and if Bortlen can verify that everything is related to the crime that was committed, they will be helpful. They wish to use proof that YNW Melly was spied on by an ex-Oblock member. Before King Vaughn's passing and Melly's imprisonment, the two were close friends. King Vaughn told the people within Oblack that YNW Melly was coming to—
Vaughn really tell you that Melly told him that he was 2 friends?
He ain't come out and say, like, we got into an argument. And so, you know, if you know, when people could say something without saying it. And so he told me, like, once I posted what I posted, Vaughn was mad at me. Bro, why you put up there, bro? What the bam? I'm like, you sitting up here, like, you know the love we got. You do this for us, but you gonna trust that his 2 friends? And he said, them was trying to extort him. And so I'm like, if they was trying to extort him, then why are you still around?
However, the authorities are also curious as to why YNW Melly was picked up from the side of the road by rapper Fredo Bang on the night of the incident. Bortlen had to take Sack Chaser and Juvie to the hospital, so Fredo
and Chris Thomas are. So what you're also going to find out is while Mr. Demons is out there on the side of the road, 4 in the morning, 4:42 specifically, he sends a drop pin, digital homing beacon, to his current location, to one of his friends, Frederick Givens. Frederick Givens is also involved in the music industry, and he asked to be picked up. Frederick Givens then, about 11 minutes later, is sent another drop pin where Mr. Demons has moved a couple of meters. What you're going to find out as well, though, is these digital leashes, they have more than just phone call.
Lastly, they use evidence from a Facebook post that shows Melly and Young Thug together in an effort to demonstrate that they are both part of the same Red Street crew.
Same thing, the use of the slap term, 5-point star, snake. He's saying he's YSL, and he puts up his YNW for life hashtag on it with Mr. Demons has the big B hand signs displayed.
Okay, and these individuals again, I'm assuming that's also the Young Thug. That's also unknown.
Yes.
Also important to your investigation, correct?
Yes.
Also publicly available for anyone to see and catch.
They now have 2 years to use this information against Melly, and if they do, he'll be done. But did you know that the only reason Melly wasn't found guilty at the last trial was revealed? This is because his fiancée, Mariah Hamilton, left the country without testifying against him and made an attempt to return at the most inconvenient moment.
Mariah Hamilton is spending her first day at the Broward County Jail. She has no arrest record until now. U.S. Border Patrol agents arrested her at Miami International Airport Monday after she arrived on an international flight. Court records show Hamilton was ordered to testify in Demon's first trial in 2023.
When she returned to the United States to visit relatives she had missed terribly, she was immediately arrested at the airport. She would then be taken to the county jail, where she would face many challenges. When she appeared in court for the first time, she was obviously going through a difficult time. The judge made her an offer. If you agree to testify against Melly, you're free to go home right now. YNW Melly's bad news is that she agreed to it before he had finished his sentence. She wrote, "To my village, thank you to my village," on Facebook as she was riding home. "I will always adore you all. God's plan, not mine." Interesting evidence that Melly had forced Mariah to not testify during the trial was found in her iCloud account. This is known as tampering with witness testimony using the jail phone. Melly faces a life sentence in prison regardless of whether she committed the crime against Sack, Chaser, and Juvie.
State filing 6 new charges against Demons and 2 others who were allegedly involved. The charges include tampering with a witness, directing the activities of a criminal, solicitation or conspiracy to commit tampering, and unlawful use of a two-way communication device. Now, a couple of those charges actually carry a life in prison sentence if there's a conviction.
Furthermore, his pending Sack Chaser and Juvie killing case is separate from the witness tampering prosecution. This suggests that there is a genuine world where Melly comes across Sack Chaser and Juvie's case, but she is later convicted of witness tampering and keeps on he was incarcerated for the rest of his life. However, because Melly was detected tampering with the jail phone, he has been prohibited from using a phone for several months. It was public knowledge that Juvie's father had witnessed it being tampered with.
There was this kind of crazy way that Melly was communicating. He wasn't allowed to use the phone, but he was passing notes to people, and then this person's calling this person and then that person.
Saying like to me, they going through extreme measures, try to cover up or convince people not to testify, like Mariah mom. They was using code words like Rihanna and A$AP Rocky's baby mom. And
it got so bad that Jamie King, Melody's mother, even interviewed the county jail for preventing him from having a phone and being able to check his own mail. However, you'd be surprised at how much this ultimately influenced Melly.
My son has not been convicted of anything, and even other inmates that have been convicted or anything, they have the right to use a telephone. They have a right to just to be allowed to write letters to their loved ones, to receive their mail. They hold his mail, they don't give it to him.